Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news.
Well, welcome back to another edition of Real Answers with Chris Anderson. Airs Wednesdays during the noon report, and we tackle the tough topics facing today's families with licensed mental health counselor Chris Anderson. And Chris, this is a very timely segment for sure in light of the many challenges facing the nation and the world for that matter, and in light of the need for Christian men to stand strong in the faith.
Yeah, Brandon, so true. I mean, I think everybody's going to be on the same page with us when we say that we are facing some times that is definitely uncharted territory here. And today we have a conversation with Chuck Holton. Chuck, husband to an amazing woman, father of 5 great kids. Currently, Chuck is an author and foreign war correspondent with the Christian Broadcasting Network. And I had the privilege of sitting down with Chuck at his home to discuss his most recent book. And here's that conversation.
I definitely am very excited to talk about your new book, Prowess. Tell us a little bit about that.
So my last book, Making Men, did really well, and actually surprisingly with women as well as men, even though it was written for fathers and sons. And it just talks about the elements of what make up a good man. So when a boy starts to ask those questions, what do I have to do to prove to the world that I've got what it takes to be a man? And every boy asks that question. And every boy tries to answer that question as best he knows how. But we don't guide our sons on what the answer looks like. So they get their answer from Hollywood, God forbid, sports figures, whatever. And many times we see unhealthy, destructive behaviors that really boil down to a young man trying to answer that question of what it means to be a man. How do I build a facade to show the world I'm a big tough guy when I'm still a scared little boy inside? Yeah. And the best answer to that is you don't build a facade. You actually stop being a scared little boy and you become a man. You embrace manhood in all of its facets. And that starts with submitting to the one who created manhood, who bestows manhood, who made you and intends for you to become a man. And then understanding what things are worth, becoming an honorable man. That's what honor is all about, is value. And then starting to assess the world around you and improve it any way you can. That's what a man does. He makes the world a better place. People are safer when a man is around. That's how it should be. And then a man dies to his own desires to provide for the needs of others. He perishes to what he wants so that he can provide for what other people need. And that's how a man lives a fulfilled, meaningful life. And then he engages in every area of life. He engages socially and relationally and spiritually and physically and financially and academically in every way. And to the extent he can engage in every area of life, he will be powerful as a man. Well, as I obtained feedback from several years of people reading Making Men, I started to realize that that last point of engaging really should be a book all by itself. There's a whole lot to unpack there. So I wrote the book Prowess to sort of explore that concept further. And one of the things I did is that I took a lot of the feedback and questions I got from young men after they read Making Men and answered those questions in the book Prowess. So surprisingly, one of the biggest questions I get from young men after I speak on the topic of manhood is, how do I get a girlfriend? How do I find a wife? I mean, you have all these Christian young men who have actually done a much better job than I ever did at putting aside lust, at trying to avoid fornication and avoid those pitfalls of sexual sin. But they've divorced themselves so much from it, and they spend so much time today interacting with devices, they never learn the very subtle art of wooing a female. And so when I see my own sons and other boys that are, in their late teens, early 20s, and when they get to the point where I'm ready to find a woman, they really have no idea what to do. They have no idea how to do it. And it's really awkward and sometimes horrifying to watch the way that they relate to girls because they just don't know how girls tick.
Or like I said earlier, by looking at the wrong sources to get guidance for these types of tasks.
Right. That was the mistake that I made as a young man, was going to Hollywood, going to my friends at school to get advice on how to find a girl. And yes, that's a huge pitfall. So part of the book is just answering that question of, this is what a woman is hardwired to need from a man. And if you want to snag a good woman for the rest of your life and be happy for the rest of your life, this is what you need to focus on.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity to sit down with Chuck. And Chuck also has a podcast called The Hot Zone. And The Hot Zone is a daily brief about the world's most dangerous places. Additionally, he hosts a Saturday morning virtual men's breakfast called The Arms Room, where he gathers influential Christian men, many from the military, to discuss living out faith in today's world with all the challenges that it has. You can find, again, the links for this as well as The Hot Zone and these online resources on the Real Answers webpage at fln.org under the Special Features tab under the News column.
You've been listening to another edition of Real Answers with Chris Anderson. It airs Wednesdays during the Noon Report. We tackle the tough topics facing today's families with Christian counselor Chris Anderson.